When I had first gotten onto self-improvement, one of the key things that everybody would talk about, that was the one big major habit that would make or break your self-improvement career: morning routines. I tried everything under the sun. I've woken up at periods in my life at 3 a.m. I've woken up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. I've done all the meditations, the breath work, the cold plunges, exercising at different times, different types of exercise, waking up for a few minutes throughout the night, like 1, 2 hour periods to get work done, and then going back to sleep. That I forget what the actual like technical scientific term for it is, but if you're curious on what that is, don't do it. It isn't a very good like productivity hack. It's basically where you purposefully sleep to where you wake up when you're in a light sleep cycle. So light sleep doesn't really contribute to restfulness and like recovery and all that type of stuff. There's basically stages of sleep. And the light sleep is basically when you're kind of not doing anything, you're mostly awake. And I would purposefully set alarms to wake up during those cycles. And then I would be up for 1 or 2 hours and go back to sleep. And then sometimes even I would wake up again and then stay up for like half an hour, and then wake up to where I would actually start my morning. I've done it all. Any habit you can think of, I've probably tried it in the morning at some point, other than like red light therapy because I'm kind of broke. And something that I always realized was I was never able to stay consistent. And it's always because I felt a huge pit of emptiness when it came to these routines. And I really do want to emphasize the point to you that if you are a Christian, or maybe you're not a Christian and you're just now watching this for fun or you're interested in whatever, the thing that really has kept me consistent when it comes to my work, when it comes to my spiritual health, mental health, and physical health, is the current routine that I'm on now, that I'm going to be sharing with you, that you can take snippets and copy parts of in order to form your own, or you can just copy the whole thing verbatim. It's up to you. I copied a lot of it from another guy, so it is how it is. So, what is the actual routine that I'm promising you that will hopefully make you more fulfilled and make you more consistent and make you all this stuff? Basically, what it is, I wake up at 5 a.m. You don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. I like waking up 2 hours before I have to be up. A lot of people normally, when they construct their morning or when they wake up or when they go to bed, is based on when they have to be up. So if you work like a 9 to 5 job, most people wake up at like 8, 8:30, maybe even like 8:45 before they like slap on clothes, maybe run some water on their face, and then they get off to work. I'm saying wake up roughly 2 hours before. If you're a student, if you're in a position where you can work from home, if you only, or if you're not a student and you're not running any kind of like business or any kind of work to where it kind of is customized based off what time you wake up. So you can't just like go on your laptop at a random time during the night and just like start doing work. Like if you take sales calls or if you work like at a physical location, whatever, then you can only wake up an hour before, but this is just like the time frame that I go off of. So first thing when I wake up, 5 o'clock in the morning, I wake up. I have my phone on the opposite side of my room. So the reason for that is because I found that if I have my alarm next to me, I'll just snooze it and then I'll go back to sleep without even fully being awake yet. If I put it on the opposite side of my room, I have to stand up. I have to like, I have a bunch of like boxes and a couple different things because I'm moving stuff around in my room. I have like a couple different boxes and some clothes or whatever, and like I'll trip over them and like whack my head against a wall or fall into the dresser. That's happened a few times. And hit the alarm. I finish it. I go to the bathroom. Like I do my thing. I take a dookie, whatever, wash my face with the dookie water, like any normal person would. Then here's where the actual morning starts. First thing I do is I sit down. I just recently have like a meditation spot. So for a while, I was actually against meditation because I, for 4 years, was a very adamant proponent of it, as in somebody who pushed it very hard. And as I became Christian, and as I talked to more Christians about meditation, they were like, "No, no, 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 don't do it because Buddhist people and Hindu people, they do it and it's bad and sinful and you're going to go to hell." And I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know. I've been doing meditation for so long." And then I realized when I stopped meditating, my life got worse. And I started searching for answers. And the thing is, when you meditate to be present, when you meditate to focus on something that isn't yourself, or even focus on just your breath, or just like be present in the moment. I like to see it, and I like to see it before I was fear mongered by fellow Christians into not doing something. And again, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're wrong. Before then, I would see it as you're opening yourself up. You're becoming present, you're becoming open, and you're allowing yourself to be filled with the Holy Spirit, with God's Word. And basically, you're prepping yourself for either prayer or reading the Bible or just being present in general. I was told this was wrong. You should do this through prayer. But what I've realized is prayer is talking. Prayer is giving gratitude. Prayer is asking. Prayer is giving thanks. Prayer is giving, um, not criticism, but prayer is saying basically your thoughts, your emotions, and what your spirit is saying. Meditation, on the other hand, when doing it, at least the way that I found to do it and the way that I've experimented with and I've seen other Christians talk about, where it's just simply trying to be present, like basic mindfulness meditation, breath work, things like that. It'll help you be more present. It'll help you open up. It's like if you're having a conversation with someone and you're constantly talking without any fail, like you're speaking like it's a YouTube video, versus you be quiet and you listen to them every once in a while. That's a lot higher quality of a relationship because the other person gets to say. When you meditate, when you be quiet, when you set the goal on focusing on the spirit, focusing on being present, that will open you up and you'll be able to hear the word better. The reason I do meditation now is because right after I will read my Bible, read a chapter a day right now. Sometimes I read a little bit less, sometimes I read a little bit more. Sometimes I don't read if like I got really bad sleep the night before because I want to read it when I'm fully present, but mostly I will then. I haven't not read my Bible in probably a couple months, or not couple months, couple weeks at best. Next thing, I'm looking over here because I have it all written down on my wall. Next thing I would do is I would do a meditation slash visualization, so breath work. Basically, something that I found that's super, super, super attractive, especially as a Christian, is visualization. There's a prayer in the Bible, which I've talked about a couple times, and it's basically the ask, be, have prayer. You ask for the thing you have, you believe that you have it, so you become the thing, so you act as in a way that you already have the thing, and then you have it. Something that I found is key after you ask and before you have is obviously being. You act like you have the thing. Something that I found that really helps with that is visualizing that you have it, tricking your brain, not even tricking your brain necessarily, because it is. You're believing that you have it because you do. God promised that our desires, as long as they're just and as long as they fill His will, we will receive. And if it's something that's important to us, if it's something that's aligned to our purpose, if we're becoming that person, and which means we're basically working hard at it, we're setting good intention with it, we're doing the best that we can with it, we will receive. When you visualize, it accelerates the process because you get to customize the experience. And what I would do is today I visualize a story in the beginning, and that's probably the best story I've told in months when it comes to content creation because I just stopped for a while. I haven't told like a story for the hook of my video or my videos for quite a long time. And genuinely, it's so much higher quality, in my opinion, because I visualized it. There is even an experiment. This is also called the law of attraction, but I'm specifying it to Christian beliefs and Christian faith. There was a guy who like founded the law of attraction or became a really big proponent of it. I forget his name for the life of me. I'm horrible at names. But essentially, there was an experiment called the ladder experiment, and I actually learned this from a guy named Mario Rios. He does something very similar to me. He's a very big, like fitness and Christianity based YouTuber. So go check him out. But he was talking about in one of the videos he did was the person who like started the law of attraction did an experiment when he would have people think about ladders, and he would have them visualize climbing up a ladder, going down a ladder, and he would have them repeat over and over and over, I'm not going to climb a ladder, I'm not going to climb a ladder, I'm not going to climb a ladder. These people haven't experienced anything with the ladder in months or years because it's not very common that you go on a ladder. That's just a fact. All of them, within the next couple of weeks, couple of months, had to climb a ladder, not only once, but several times. And it wasn't all of them, as in like every single one, but it was a large majority. like over 80%. And all of them were seeing ladders more often, which makes sense because if you're constantly thinking about ladders, because this was a daily practice as well, if you're constantly thinking about ladders, you're going to notice it more often. It's kind of like when you learn something new, just all of a sudden people won't shut up about it. People are constantly talking about it. But that is part of the law of attraction. In Christianity, it is faith based. So we say we ask for the thing. We say I'm. We say I want a ladder. We become the thing. We visualize climbing the ladder, being on the ladder, being with the ladder, doing things with the ladder, things like that. Not doing things as in dirty. Clear your mind. And then at some point, because we're constantly thinking about the ladder, we've asked for the ladder, we put our faith that we will receive the ladder. At some point, we receive the ladder. This is a visualization aspect and the asking, being, and having. This is super, super powerful. And I have a whole other video on this and how to do this in more detail. I was super low energy in it, so I'll make another one at some point. Oopsie poopsie. I'm also learning about it more, so bear with me. It's going to take like 1 to 2 weeks before I properly figure out like how this works, or I'll learn like a new step or something along those lines. Next thing that I do is I'll do some affirmations. So I have things written down of who I want to be. I think I have them memorized by now. I think let me set this. I'm going to explain why it's important first. So this ties in with speaking things into existence. It depends whether or not you want to do the affirmations first or after. I personally do them like whichever one I feel. If I feel like visualizing like my actual goals, I'll do them before. If I feel like visualizing the task that I'm about to do, I won't do the affirmations before. I'll visualize a task before I do it. And then, so what I would, that's what kind of when you can customize when you do the affirmations. The reason why it's important, again, is because you're speaking it into existence. You're saying, this is who I am. This is not who I want to be, but this is who I'm becoming and who I've become. Again, some of the things that I say are people that are like traits of someone I want to be. So one of them is I follow God's will. I'm disciplined and I train very hard. Those are two of them. Other of them are outcome based affirmation. So I have 100,000 subs on YouTube. That's one of the few affirmations that I have. I have 7. So it goes, I follow God's will. I'm a loving husband and partner. I think I have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm a top 1% YouTuber and speaker. I am disciplined and I train very hard. I plan out my days and I stick to good habits. 7 things. I have them all memorized now. Last video where I talked about this, I didn't have them all memorized. I had to have the sheet of paper, but I have them memorized now because it's becoming ingrained to who I am. And when I do an action that isn't conducive with those, it pops into my head and I go through the list over and over. Can you imagine how powerful that would be if you're about to do something sinful, if you're about to lie, if you're about to cheat, if you're about to steal something, and you have a message that not only you got from God, because for some reason, and me included, everybody has this to where if God says something, it takes us a while of convincing to actually believe it. But could you imagine being about to sin, being about to do something bad, and thinking that I follow God's will? My piece of paper that I wrote down that I choose to live by said, I follow God's will. So you then don't do that thing. Last night, I was so ready to go to bed. I got like 6 hours of sleep. I'm getting less and less sleep as like time goes on for some reason because of stress or work or whatever it is or school. And got 6 hours, was like 6 hours before I had to wake up. I'm someone who genetically needs more sleep, so I need like anywhere between like 8 and 9 hours or 7 and 9 hours, which is actually most people now that I think about it. But that's in bedtime. I think that study was based off of. I'm talking about like actual sleep. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna read the affirmations before bed. I'm a disciplined person. I train very hard. That was what was going through my head. And I plan out my days. This morning, I planned what I was going to do for the morning, which is super, super, super important. You absolutely need to have a couple of things that you live by. You can copy mine. You can only put one. You can only put goals on there. You can only put character traits. I mixed them, and it just so happens that they equaled 7. And I was like, oh my God, it's God's number. Woo! So I rolled with it. I probably could add more. I probably could remove some, but that's about what I have. Next thing I do is I would do my eat the frog task. So I would do the hardest work task for myself in the morning. I record, I script, I do schoolwork, anything along those lines. Sometimes I'll write like a YouTube post I've been doing more recently, like one of the community posts. You can check those out as well. Sometimes I would literally just say hi to people in my Discord or say hi to one of my friends or whatever. Well, that wouldn't be the eat the frog task now that I think about it. That would be after the fact. But the point is, I do the hardest thing for myself in the morning. I'm a firm believer in eating the frog because in the morning is when you have the most amount of brain points. Brain points, how I like to boil them down is if you think about in a video game when you have a mana bar, like you have 100 points, you use a fireball attack, you get minus 20. Like it takes up points as you go out throughout the day. When you do tasks, when you do easy, medium, hard tasks. So whether it's picking out your clothes in the morning or whether it's just throughout the day, it goes down progressively. So like every hour you lose 2 points just by existing, just by like having your eyes open. And when you eat the bad food, it goes down. And when you exercise, it goes down. And when you do that little bit of like scrolling on your phone, it goes down. I like to use the most quality of my brain points in the morning, and I like to use as many as possible in the morning because this is a task that at the end of the day I care about. This is what I want to do as my job. This is my passion. This is what my business is going to be. I'm not selling you anything now, but there will be some day where I have, whether it's a mental health course or a community, or I already have a community, like a description called the Christ Improvement Community. I teach people like Christian based self improvement if you're interested, but there's going to be a paid community. There's going to be something like that. I'm not doing that yet because I have a really bad habit of wanting to start a business, but kind of falling out of love with it because I sold too early. So once video 100 goes up, that is going to be when I release a paid product of some kind, whether it's courses, whether it's fitness, whether it's me just saying, you know what, this isn't something that I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about Christian based self improvement anymore. I'm not going to do it. See ya, this channel's direction is changing. Here's my new paid product. And that's just how it's going to go. Doing the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it, is something that I think is very important for every young man to know and every person to know in general. Every man, woman, girl. It just sounds cooler if I say young man because young guys think it's like a power thing. And if I say young guys, the majority of guys will be here and they'll be like, oh, well, he's talking to me. But if I say the majority of people, then it's like guys and girls. But I have like a 3% female audience. So like it's not as impactful for the majority of people. We need to work hard to fulfill our purpose given from God. I watched a video by a guy named Ryan. He also does Christian based self improvement stuff. And he was talking about purpose. And he was saying how it's our job to spread the Garden of Eden. And the Garden of Eden, metaphorically speaking, is how you spread a garden is with seeds. And we believe that when we talk about Christianity to atheists, to people who are more lukewarm, to just people in general, let's just say, we believe that when we bring up Christianity, we plant a seed, like a metaphorical seed within their spirit. Once that seed blossoms and sprouts and they become a more devout Christian, they believe in our Christian God, Yahweh. We believe, I shouldn't even say we believe, they grow that seed and it blossoms and it becomes a plant of whatever kind. It doesn't matter. It's mostly a metaphor. And we spread the Garden of Eden. At the end of the day, that is our purpose. In Genesis, it talks about growing and multiplying. You can be either a pastor, either a police officer, either a fry cook, either a cashier. I'm thinking about SpongeBob. As long as you are spreading the seed in some way, then you are honoring God. Now, obviously, for like an OnlyFans model or whatever, that's a little bit different. I would probably say maybe he wouldn't like that, but whatever. Then sometimes after I would do my Eat the Frog task, I would go work out. Sometimes I don't work out in the morning, like for time's sake, or I want to do extra work or things like this because I genuinely do enjoy my work. I say the hardest task, just the hardest work task. I really, really do enjoy doing this. I believe is very purposeful for me. Sometimes I'll work out in the morning. My workouts now are like short 45-minute to an hour sessions. They used to be like 2 or 3 hours because I was really into like strength training, and I don't want to say powerlifting, but if you look up street lifting, like weighted calisthenics, I was into that. I did 100 pounds for 5 reps on weighted pull-ups in my best shape. I can do like one arm pull-ups. I learned how to do all that stuff, and all that requires a lot of volume with like moderate intensity and super high rest times, which basically means it takes a long time because you have to do a lot, but you also have to rest a lot in between each set. And what that actually does is it spikes your cortisol like crazy, and it actually worsens your testosterone. And I would always feel so exhausted after training. And people would always talk about how they feel great after training, how they can go hard, how they can get all their sets in, and they feel fantastic after the fact. Now, those people probably aren't training hard enough to where right after they feel good. But it is scientifically proven that you should have a little bit of an energy and a dopamine boost after exercise. I didn't understand why I was getting that, or I wasn't getting that, because when I had lowered my session time to like an hour, hour and a half, I felt like crap. And I noticed that in the beginning of my workouts, I felt great, but around the halfway point, I would feel worse. So what I did was just cut it in half, 45 to 60 minutes. And what I would notice is I would quit when my body was extremely exhausted, not quit, but finish the workout. But I would finish around the time I was actually done. And that's a super important piece of advice is if you want exercise to feel good, and even if you want the best results, maybe for like some people, obviously in my instance where I was doing like the more strength-based training versus like hypertrophy and athleticism, I had to train longer for my best result. But for hypertrophy, you can really finish a session within 45 to 60 minutes. In most cases, if you're training anywhere between like 4 and 6 times a week. That's just something to think about. Now, I went over my routine. I'm going to readjust my seat here. What should you actually take from this? How should you actually adjust this to your life? I think that the ask, be, have prayer is something that's very powerful. So adding that into your life, I think would be very important. So this is when you ask for something, you believe that you have it, so you become it, and then that's when you will receive it. I think you should take a visualization. I think you should take up the habit of reading your Bible first thing in the morning. I didn't mention, but I also pray in the mornings. At some point, I don't really have a scheduled time to do it, but I always make sure that I do pray in the morning. I'll also write like a little gratitude note to my girlfriend just because we think it's fucking adorable, and she write or crap. I was so close to not swearing. She, we think it's adorable. That's how our relationship wants to work. If you're one like those red pill like alpha influencers, you're probably right. We might become more polarized because of it, but it's a memory that we have, and obviously you can cycle back and forth. It's not just purely black and white in a relationship. Of like you're always wanting to be on top of each other versus like on top of each other's and like hugging and stuff, not the other thing. Versus always like being completely polarized and just not wanting to speak to each other. There are some extra things that I do just for the sake of explanation. Um, you can take away the Bible study, you can take away the prayer, you can take away the visualization. I think is important, at least for you to try. It's going to be weird. This is something that, without knowing, I actually have been getting really good at throughout my whole life. So it becomes a little bit easier to me naturally because I naturally do it. And I've noticed that through periods in my life. My medals are right here. These are all from one sport. I have a plaque over there and a varsity letter. A varsity level letter is like a high school team, the highest team possible for the high school. So it goes it goes like training team, junior varsity. So it's the younger players who are on track to become varsity. And then it's varsity. For wrestling, I was a varsity player. For volleyball, I was a national volleyball player. And it was because I believe I would think about the sport all the time because I was one of the most inexperienced people, but not to toot my own horn, I was also one of the best in both sports. In wrestling, I only did for about a year. And the people who were wrestling 2 years, 3 years, one guy even 4 years, I would consistently destroy them when stakes were high. So it was like the coach would make us run a lap around the school, which is like a fourth of a mile if we lost our match. And I was winning pretty consistently. So this is something I really do believe in. This is just something that's more targeted versus like genuinely just like fantasizing throughout the day. When it comes to waking up earlier, something that I think is very important is you do it gradually. If you wake up at 9 o'clock, or if you wake up at 7, don't tomorrow wake up at 5. You're not used to it. A lot of neuroscientists say go back 15 minutes every day. So tomorrow you would wake up at 6:45, then 6:30, then 6:15, then 6 and 5:45. I think you should go slower. I say 10 minutes, and even 10 minutes I feel a difference. I feel like a pretty noticeable difference just in how like my body moves and like how quick I am, and because me and my friend box in the morning also, that's part of my workout. And in the morning I'll realize like I move slower, I'm a bit more stiff, like I have to warm up longer, my spine doesn't quite feel right. It really does make a difference. And one of the most important things for sleep is consistency. So even if you're getting less sleep, it's better to fall asleep at the same time every day than it is to wake up at like a 30 to 60 minute like variance and go to bed at a 30 to 60 minute variance. If you say your bedtime is 8:30 and you wake up at 5:30, you want to get as close as possible to those times because of the fact that sleep consistency and just that's the only word for it. Just the consistency at which you go to bed and fall asleep is more important than how long of sleep you get. So it's better to sleep 7 hours with 100% sleep efficiency, and sleep efficiency is tied to your consistency and how you sleep. So it's basically how high quality was your sleep. 7 hours of that is better than 70% or 80% sleep consistency with 8 hours. But there's some slight variance. So that's how you want to structure that. If you are curious, I have a free community in the description. It's called the Christian Improvement Community, CIC, KIC. I thought it was funny, the name, so the acronyms is KIC, and I'm going to call it KIC now because KIC. I teach in there. There's a couple guys who are on Christian-based self-improvement. I'm going to be releasing stuff over the summer, especially like free courses and guides and just like mental health stuff and fitness guides. Because if you're wondering, I am a pretty decently jacked dude, and also I'm pretty mentally healthy, and I've had a bunch of experiences like poor mental health and things of that nature. If you're interested, link in the description. Subscribe if you think my face is nice or you think I have decent arms. I appreciate it. My name has been Brandon. Keep doing the best and doing your best. Trust God. Signing off.